Hi everyone, it's me Tracy, and I'm here with my mare Sarah, and we're going to do a short video today about Sarah and the Arabian Horse Breed. I hope you enjoy it. We're just going to talk about some of the basics of the breed, and then we're going to talk about her and her personality. And as you can maybe tell, it's chilly here. I'm in Minnesota, and it's a chilly day, probably about 25 degrees or so. So I'm a little bit bundled up, and you can tell that Sarah's coat is growing nice and thick for winter to keep her warm too. First of all, this is Sarah. She is a 15-year-old registered Arabian horse that we got about, I would say 5 or 6 months ago in the spring of 2020. And her previous owner showed her in dressage, and that was kind of what she did. She rode in the English discipline and rode her in dressage. And since we've gotten her, I've been riding her Western. She loves to go on trail rides. She loves to go a long, long ways, and she just has the energy to keep going and going. That's one of the cool characteristics about the Arabian. So, some fun facts about Sarah. You can tell that she is an Arabian because she has a bit of the sculptured face shape, and she has at her ears, the tips of her ears turn in just a tiny, tiny bit. That's another one of their characteristics. She has a great personality. She's very, very intelligent and friendly. She has a lot of, I would call it pride. So she's similar to humans that are confident and have pride in themselves. She does as well. And I'll show you a couple other of the physical characteristics of her and talk a little bit more about that. Scoot over, Sarah. Sarah has a lot of the characteristics of the Arabian breed, and she has some that are unique to her, much like humans. Whether I might be German or Swedish, I might have some of the characteristics of that nationality. I also have things that are just plain me, and so does Sarah. She does have the scoop in her face. She has a bit of the arched neck. It's kind of hard to tell right now during this season because she's a little more woolly. She's very intelligent. She is always looking for a treat. She will oftentimes nibble at her rope that she's tied from, trying to get herself untied. She's a pretty clever girl, and if she was able to, I'm sure she would untie herself. She has a shorter back from her wither space to her tail. That is one characteristic of the Arabian breed, and they are a strong horse. Even though their bones might be finer or thinner than some horses, they're very strong and sturdy horse. They can carry their riders for long distances. If you think about where their breed began in the Arabian desert, they had a strong, sturdy body that would carry their riders the full distance across deserts. And another characteristic is the way that their rib cage and their lungs are structured. They are able to take in more oxygen than some horse breeds, so she could travel a longer distance than some others, which would make her a great endurance horse, which means that they could go long distances without tiring out. Another characteristic of the Arabian is their hard hoof. And if you think about it, if their origins are back in the Arabian desert, their hoof would be hard and would be able to withstand the heat and the sand of the desert. So those are just some of her characteristics about her breed. And now we're going to talk a little bit about her personality. Like I mentioned, Sarah's a really smart horse. She loves treats too, by the way. And she's not always super polite about taking them gently from your hand like some of our other horses do. She will grab the entire treat and sometimes get your hand in between. So we're trying to teach her to slow down, not eat her food so quickly, and be more polite with her manners. She loves the other horses. We have a couple of other horses in our pasture, and she gets along well with them. And horses, like with other animals as well as people, they kind of establish their own hierarchy. Buster, our paint horse, is at the top of the totem pole, so to speak, and he is in charge of the rest of the horses. Sarah is about the middle of the pack and has a pretty assertive personality. She is a strong-minded girl, and she really doesn't take any pushing around from any of the other horses except for Buster. Oh, girl. She sometimes will try to push her boundaries with her human as well. And like we'll talk about in the class, we as humans need to establish our dominance too. Not by being rude or pushy or aggressive or hurting our horses, but she needs to understand a 1,200-pound animal is much more powerful and strong than me. She could push me over or hurt me if I let her. So I need her to understand that I am in charge and she needs to stay in her space. And she's typically pretty good with that. Being a hot-blooded breed, the Arabian has a lot of energy. Sarah is no exception to that. She has a lot of energy and is able to maneuver and pivot quickly. She's quick on her feet, and she enjoys working, what we might call working. She enjoys being ridden. In fact, when I go for a short trail ride and come back, she often will put her ears back as if she's disappointed that she has to go back so soon. So sometimes I take a longer ride just so she's happy. Happy horses, happy riders, right? So those are some characteristics about Sarah and about her Arabian breed. And I'm going to tack her up and go for a little ride. All right, we are pretty much done grooming her up. And I can put on my saddle. I've also got my bridle. I do a little trick since it's cold here in Minnesota. I have a metal bit that needs to go in her mouth, and that would be really cold. So I tuck it inside my jacket. So if you're wondering what I have on under here, it's the bridle to keep it warm for my body heat warms it up so that when I put it in her mouth, it's not going to hurt or she's not going to be grumpy with me right away. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to show you how to tack up the horse. Like I said, we use a Western tack on her. This is our saddle pad. We put that on. It's like wearing socks with your shoes. Just helps prevent the rubbing of the saddle on her body. So I'm going to put on her saddle pad. And then my Western saddle. Oh, girl. And I keep talking to her the whole time, telling her what she needs to do as well, because I don't want her to move and have the saddle fall and get that ruined. And I also don't want to spook her so she ends up being scared or intimidated by me. I want her to know that exactly what we're doing. Some people even say the name of the object before they put it up on the horse, so the horse learns and becomes familiar with the words saddle blanket and saddle. The most important word that I use in our barn is whoa. That means stop moving your feet, stand still, and that's for safety as well as giving them more words, more commands that they understand so we can communicate better. So I'm going to put the saddle on the rest of the way and then we'll get tacked up. I'm going to hook up my cinch. All right, now that we've got our saddle and our saddle blanket on, she's all cinched up loosely. I'll tighten it right before I get on the horse. Make sure it's nice and tight so the saddle won't slide and I won't hurt myself or Sarah. I got my bridle here. She has a snaffle bit that she uses, and I've been warming up the bit so it won't be cold for her. Everyone does this part a little bit differently. Something I like to do is unhook the halter, and just in case she moves or something, I want her to be secured, so I'll put this on loosely. If something were to happen that she'd spook, I could quickly unfasten it so she wouldn't get hurt. But I still have control. So we'll put the bit in her mouth. She usually takes the bit really nicely. Put it on her ears. And then I take the halter off right away. So then she's safe because I've got her secured with her bridle. Hook up the throat latch here. And we're all set to go. All I need is my riding helmet and my boots for riding. Be back in just a minute. All right, everybody. This is the end of our little video. I've got my boots on, my riding boots. I'm gonna put my helmet on, and Sarah and I are gonna take a little ride. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.